The first words came like a cold slap in the face. "Oh, you need to leave now." Retired Lieutenant Colonel Jack Reynolds didn't move. His large, weathered hands rested on his knees, fingers curled tightly. His broad shoulders, once the pride of the U.S. Army Special Forces, remained still. His eyes, steel blue, calm, and unreadable, stared straight ahead at the ceremony stage. But the words echoed through the grand auditorium, silencing the buzz of celebration. Every conversation died. The soft rustle of dress uniforms went still. Hundreds of eyes turned toward him, some surprised, some uncomfortable, a few shamefully curious. 2 base security officers stood stiffly at either side of him, their expressions professional, their posture tense. Jack didn't blink, no more than 20 yards away. His son Noah stood tall in his formal Navy dress, whites. His posture was proud, his face shining with the quiet intensity of a man who had chased a dream and finally reached it. Today was his graduation from Annapolis, America's most prestigious naval academy. It should have been a perfect day, but now his father was being asked to leave, not because of danger, not because of misconduct, but because he wore an older uniform, one from a war. A generation, a time no longer spoken of with pride. His special forces dress blues, outdated and faded, bore a past some found uncomfortable. "Sir," one of the guards said again, louder, sterner, "you were not cleared to attend this ceremony. We need you to come with us." Jack's jaw tightened, not in fear, in pain, a deep, quiet pain. The kind that grows not from wounds of the body, but from years of being forgotten, of sacrifice, unacknowledged, of becoming invisible in a world he once bled for. He spoke at last, voice low and even. "This is my son's moment. I will not leave." The guards hesitated. One stepped forward. "Colonel or not, this is a restricted event. You're not on the authorized guest list." Jack didn't take his eyes off the stage. "I served this country for 25 years. I held men as they died, so your uniforms could exist. I won't be escorted out like a trespasser." Ripple went through the audience, whispers, murmurs. A few officers in the back stood half out of their seats, uncertain. On stage, Noah stood frozen, his fists clenched at his sides. His face had gone pale. Then, without warning, 4 men rose from the back row. No applause, no words. Just the heavy creak of chairs and the slow, deliberate steps of 4 decorated veterans walking down the aisle. Their posture was proud, their eyes sharp. They moved with the unmistakable energy of warriors. They weren't just veterans. They were legends. Former members of Delta Force. Men whose classified operations had shaped history. Whose names had been erased for national security, but whose loyalty had never faded. They said nothing, just approached Jack. The guards froze. One whispered into his radio. Fear flickered across his face. The tallest Delta member stopped in front of the guards. "You're making a mistake," he said, voice steady as a drumbeat. "Lieutenant Colonel Reynolds is one of this nation's finest. If he leaves, we leave." Another spoke, quieter but sharper. "And if we leave, the ceremony loses its soul." A hush fell. So complete, even the ceiling lights seemed to buzz louder. On stage, Noah moved at last. He stepped down, each footfall echoing. He walked toward his father, eyes burning. He stood tall, shoulders squared, and looked straight at the guards. "This man," he said, voice ringing across the hall, "is my father. He taught me what it means to serve, to sacrifice, to lead. He belongs here more than anyone." The guards glanced at each other, uneasy, outnumbered. But then another voice cut through. "Stand down." It was the base commander, Rear Admiral James Whitaker, marching down the center aisle. Medals flashing, eyes thunderous. "Colonel Reynolds is here as my personal guest," he said. "No one removes him." The guards instantly stepped back. Applause began. Hesitant at first, then louder. But Jack did not rise. His expression didn't soften. The damage had been done. He sat in silence, staring ahead. Noah stood beside him, torn between pride and anger. The moment should have been one of celebration. But instead, it had become a painful reminder. How easily the world forgets the men who built its foundations. Admiral Whitaker reached them and spoke softly. Jack, I didn't know. If I had, you didn't need to know, Jack replied, calm but firm. What mattered was what they assumed. That this old uniform meant I didn't belong, that I was nobody. The Admiral looked away, ashamed. Round them, people whispered. Some now looked at Jack with fresh respect, but Jack hadn't come for them. He stood slowly. His knees ached from old wounds. He looked at Noah, the boy now. A man held his jaw tight, fighting back emotion. I'm sorry, Dad, he said quietly. I didn't know this would happen. Jack placed a hand on his son's shoulder. It's not your fault. You did the hard work. You earned this. I'm proud of you. Noah's voice cracked. But they humiliated you. Jack looked around the room, then toward the Delta Force men, still standing like granite statues. He finally said, uniforms fade. But the respect we carry, it's built by how we stand when the world tries to knock us down. Those words landed like thunder in the silence. Noah nodded, his throat tight. Admiral Whitaker cleared his throat. The ceremony will continue. Lieutenant Colonel Reynolds, please stay. You belong here. Jack looked at Noah. What do you want? Want you beside me, Noah said. Front row, where you've always been. They walked together toward the front, a Delta Force. Veterans nodded to Jack in silent salute. When the ceremony resumed, every name called carried new weight. And when Noah's name echoed through the hall, he walked to the stage with his chin high. He didn't look at the Admiral, didn't look at the crowd. He looked only at his father. And then, without hesitation, Noah saluted, not to the officials too. Jack gasps rippled through the room. Then a miracle of unity of their cadets rose and saluted, one by one, then 10, then 50. Then the entire hall. They saluted not just a man, but a forgotten generation. A correction had been made. Jack stood, slowly, returned the salute. Not out of pride, out of truth. That night the base buzzed with one story what had happened at the graduation. Nobody remembered the speeches. Nobody cared who won which medal. All they remembered was the moment that passed. Stood tall and was seen. Jack didn't stay for the reception. He didn't need the handshakes or hollow apologies. He left quietly. Noah beside him. They didn't speak much on the drive home. But the silence, it was full. Full of love, of pride, of unspoken understanding between two men connected by more than blood. At home, in their small house outside Norfolk, Noah carefully removed his uniform. Jack was already in the kitchen, making tea. I never thought the day would turn out like that, Noah said. Jack nodded. Life rarely asks our opinion. You think I did the right thing? Saluting you like that? Jack turned. You didn't salute me. You saluted what I carried. And what you now carry. Noah lowered his eyes. I just wanted to make you proud. Jack smiled faintly. You always did, even when you were a kid, turning towels into capes, pretending to rescue the world. Then, softly, today, you reminded everyone what it means to have spine. The next morning, a knock on the door. Jack opened it. Jack opened it. The two guards stood there. No uniforms, no bravado. One held his cap in both hands like a schoolboy. Colonel, the taller said, we came to apologize. Jack didn't speak, just waited. We followed protocol, the second added. We forgot to see the man. Jack stepped aside. Come in. They sat at the kitchen table. Jack didn't lecture. He told stories about pain, about loyalty, about comrades who never came home. When the young men left, they saluted. Not because they had to, because they wanted to. The story spread. Military forums, local news, even national coverage. The video of Noah's salute, the standing ovation. The forgotten warrior rediscovered. Lieutenant Colonel Jack Reynolds became a quiet symbol, not of war, of grace, strength, the bond between generations. A month later, a new plaque appeared at the Academy's Hall of Valor. It read, in honor of those who served, not for recognition, but for purpose. dedicated to Lt. Cal. Jack Reynolds, and all who paved the way. Jack visited once. Alone, he touched the plaque, smiled not because he wanted to be remembered, because now his son would never forget. That evening, Noah stood ready for his first deployment. Jack handed him a small box. Inside his old Special Forces badge. "I carried this through hell," Jack said. "Now it's yours." Noah took it gently, his hands shaking. "I'll carry it with honor," Jack nodded. "You're ready." Outside, the sun dipped low. Noah climbed aboard the military transport before the doors closed. He turned, saluted, and for the first time in decades, Jack returned. Not as a father, as a fellow soldier, because not all wars are fought with bullets. Some are fought in silence, and in that silence, true heroes rise.